Hello, everybody, and welcome to Alternative Interactions. I'm Gary, and today we have a really special guest. I'm so honoured to be joined by Sonya Testament of the Tree of Knowledge. So, Sonya, please introduce yourself to my lovely audience so they get to know who you are. Everybody should know who you are, by the way.
Oh, thank you, Gary. That was a lovely introduction. Basically, I'm a remote viewer. I ended up coming out into this reality basically out of I felt so compelled that we needed to have a heads up on what's coming for humanity. So I started a channel almost about 6 years ago on YouTube, and I have been talking about various topics. I talk about the fate of humanity, the ascension of humanity, what's going on, where are you at in this ascension. I talk about other things that have been done to humanity to try to stop this ascension from happening. But no, it's on. We're going forward. So you can all find me on the Tree of Knowledge YouTube, Sonya Testerman. I also have a Patreon. I started that about a little over a year ago because YouTube kept taking down a lot of my videos. I would have a strike, have another strike, and then they would take down more videos after that. I should have lost my channel a long time ago. But because there are so few people who can see what's coming ahead of us because of the frequency you have to carry in order to work your looking glass technology, and they don't have that. They need people like me and you and other people who can look ahead because they can no longer. This is why when I kept getting all these strikes, I should have lost my channel in the very beginning. It was almost 6 years ago. It's still standing. I've got about 40 videos that have been taken down. You can find the majority of them on Odyssey. And other than that, Patreon, because I wanted to dive so deep. I do 2 hours on a Saturday live and interactions with everyone who's on there because I didn't want to be shut down anymore. And I have just rocketed since.
Superb, superb. I have actually been following Sonia for about 4 years, just over 4 years. A friend of mine who's now passed, unfortunately, Bernie. Um, when I first met Bernie properly, she said to me, "Oh my God, the stuff you're talking about, you've got to watch this woman. She's amazing." And I went, "Oh, okay, okay." So I clicked on. Sonia was on YouTube then, and watched this video, and it's just like, this girl's talking my language. So let's start talking our language then. Now, before we went on, we've just been having a general chat about stuff, and shall we start on where we kind of left off in our chat?
Yes, please do. And maybe we'll rehash some of the stuff we just talked about because you need to talk about Janice.
Yes, I do. Yeah, and I do have a little slideshow that leads us at some point if we do that. And I am technically terrible, and my son actually had to show me how to share screens and do stuff because I'm just like, "Oh, you've got Arthur, I've got my son."
We all have someone we need.
We do, we do. Um, so a week or two ago, friend Richard Cardinal and himself did a show, and we were talking about Spider Grandmother. And the Spider Grandmother is kind of the energy that created this consciousness realm, this toroidal field of consciousness, this AI holography stroke matrix, whichever language you want to use. It's all the same feeling. You know what I mean? And 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 Spider Grandmother has 8 legs, and these 8 legs were 8 individual energies or entities that we believe created where we are today. And now, obviously, it developed and developed and developed. And we went from very big things to now teeny weeny small things like us. And when we look at the Titans, and again, we've spoken about the Titans as well. So I was talking to Sonia and I said, look, one of these entities that was part of Spider Grandmother was called Janice, and we know it's Janice today. Now, Janice is the interloper. He's the it's the energy that came into this realm that changed the energy to where we are today.
Mhm.
Now, Janice came in when the moon came in fundamentally and took full power and control over. So there was a time when there was no moon in the sky, which again, I've spoken about this in my channels before, but it's a very difficult one to get your head around when you have official organizations like NASA, which in Hebrew means to deceive, doesn't it, to lie,
Oh, yes, it does.
telling us these falsehoods about our realm and what we actually really do live in. And one of the things I love about Sonya's channel is the fact that she's able to, and has been consistently for very many years, talk about the consciousness, the toroidal field, and what we're actually living in. Because it's very important that you have to you understand and get what we're actually living in, so that you can then understand everything else that comes from it. You know, what do you feel about that, Sonya?
Oh, I absolutely. This is one of the reasons why I came out pretty early in the YouTube about where are you? Where are we? What are we living in? About the holographic sky. Why is it a holographic sky? Why are we not on a round ball spinning through space? How does that even work? You know, you think about when first truthers came out about the flat earth. I've never heard about that, the flat earth truthers. I knew that it was a flat realm, but I'd never heard about that. And I had come across Martin Lika and Campbell Purvis. They were the first ones I came across.
Yeah, me
And it's
too.
and it's like, oh man, they know about this. I got to say something. And it was shortly after that I decided that I need to come out and show everybody what we're really on. Why do we resonate with this kind of a sphere thing? And it's because of the cosmic egg that we're on. And that's actually Gaia, which is an energy being that had solidified itself. And we're just a tiny little snow globe on top of that. And then why are we a tiny snow globe? And then I go into what happened, how that it got created, why that got created, that we're not the only one of those snow globes. There are a lot of them, and they were literally designed at one time. You could go in and out of them. They're not like this, that they would be whole ecosystems. You can put like a terrarium. I can make this ecosystem, this ecosystem, this ecosystem, completely different for vegetation and life. It was a creational thing. And this one was something entirely different and became corrupted. And then we even go back to what's on top of Gaia? What are we living on? What is going on? And then we talk about, you can go all the way back to what was the very beginning of this entire schematic. I mean, I talk about everything.
Yeah.
Um, but you can go from there.
No, no, yeah, it's brilliant. So we have the moon appearing. I have got it down on the slide from memory. It's 4339 or something like that. We had the major reset in 4039 BC.
Mhm.
And again, I've done a little slideshow. Look, we can show this because again, Sonya's talked about this, the circle with the cross between the two in the four quarters, and so's Chief Ironbush. Now Jason hasn't, but when you take Jason Archaic's information and you overlay it with Chief Ironbush's and you overlay it with Sonya's, it fits. And that's, for me, that is a really nice thing. I like to take like information all over the place. So there we go. So the moon was not there at the beginning of the reset that we had in this last quarter. We're in the last quarter of the
Mhm.
circle, and the
Mhm.
circle was called Circe, and churches used to be called Circe circles because a church
Mhm.
was a circle, which is why we get the round thing around the Christ, and we get the round circle with the cross between it, because that
Mhm.
is a remembrance and should be a remembrance of the four quarters, not necessarily of the four seasons in the micro, but in the macro, the four quarters of time and
Yep.
and the way the realm works. Um, so I have done a lot of research on this one, and the moon is an AI control concept that was brought in to take down the divine feminine and remove Gaia's power and change this snow globe, this biosphere of a connective consciousness of a toroidal field. See, I get the roundness. We are in a
Mhm.
round
Oh
world,
yeah. Yeah,
but it's a toroidal field, because if you look at a
hmm
toroidal field, it goes round and comes back in.
that's right.
And in the center of a toroidal field is the flat inertial plane.
Yep.
And we live in the flat inertial plane of the toroidal field of consciousness that runs round, you know.
hmm
So although Sonia is talking about exactly the same thing I am, I have a slightly different explanation of it, but we're both talking about exactly the same thing.
hmm I
Exactly
have
the
I
same.
have poor terminology, so I'm having to look up what does this mean? What does this mean? This was never a part of my reality or life. I was never a part of any truth or anything. I was just living a life. It wasn't until I got to a certain point in my life I was basically thrust into this, and I had to learn terminology
Yeah.
because I had no idea. I'm like, I'm talking to people about this, but I have no terminology. And then someone would say, "Hey, you're talking about this, or you're talking about that."
I know, and it's only I'm exactly the same. I mean, I'm the same as Sonia. I'm dyslexic. I don't read books. I get knowings. I watch things, and I've got this ability to put things together from different sources, and so when Sonia would talk about a toroidal field or something, and I'm thinking, well, what's one of them? And
That
I'm
was
being
me. Like, what
serious.
does that mean?
I know, I'm being serious. I'm thinking, what's one of them? What's a toroidal field? And so I then that would be another research. I just research. So I'd Google what's a toroidal field,
Mm-hmm.
and then you think, oh, okay, and then a month or 6 months later or something, you'll be watching something else, and the toroidal field will come up in a different concept and nature, and you think, oh my God, they're talking about a toroidal field again, and it does this as well. And
hmm
slowly over the years, we build up this information, this language that's pretty foreign to us, isn't it? To be
Yes,
fair.
it is. And every single thing has a toroidal field, a tree, a plant, an animal, sea life. Everything has it.
Yeah, it does. It does. And again, this is I'm terrible with my tangents, Sonia. So when I go
No, go ahead. Go
time,
ahead. No
tangent time.
judging.
All right. When we take the toroidal field of the realm of the Earth that we're living in, Gaia, and we're in the center part, what we're actually talking about is a negative and a positive charge. And the way we would see this these days is if anyone of you guys looked into the Tesla technologies or how old cathedrals, cathode rails used to work with the free
Mhm.
energy that we used to have for nearly probably 800 years. We've had free energy, and it's only been recently it's been taken away from us again. But what we have is the ground is the negatively charged and the atmosphere is positively charged. And so the higher you go up into the atmosphere, the more charge you get. And so
Mhm.
if you run a balloon up into the sky, you can get a charge come down and you can power stuff. And
Mhm.
this is exactly how this realm works of the toroidal field of consciousness. It's a power, it's an electromagnetic field, just like a magnet would be. Okay?
Mhm.
Just so for a descriptive kind of so people can come think about what we're talking about, because sometimes these concepts can be a little bit like,
Mhm.
oh my God, I don't understand that at all. And so I always like to bring things down to the basic. I do
Yeah,
look into
layman's
things.
terms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
put everything into layman's terms because I am a layman.
Yes, yeah. I've got no formal qualifications really at all on anything. The only thing I ever passed at school or college was maths, and I failed everything else. And I'm terrible at maths. Um, but it doesn't stop us learning and
No.
developing and growing because it's
Mhm.
part of our journey within this toroidal field of consciousness, and
Mhm.
it's been open to accessing the knowledge that's available to us for free within this realm. You know.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So end of tangent. I do apologize. So, so, so what we've got is the moon came in, and I have got a slide, and I'll go through the proper date of this because I have got it written down in my best handwriting. Um, but we had the moon come in, and what the moon did, it was like a shackle. It was a control mechanism. It was a governor into our spiritual ascension and how we were to grow from there onwards.
Mhm.
And I would not be surprised. Now, I've never asked this question, and it's just come into my head because I get these little things. Sonia, did our chakra system come in at the same time as the moon?
Yes, it did actually. Yes, it did actually. And they did it energetically. We have something called a biofield around us. If you had Kerlerian photography and you put it like on glasses and looked around, everything carries a biofield. And you would actually see the energy points. There's one up above your head, there's on your head, which is the crown. Then you have this one for the pineal. Then you have this one for the throat. Then you have the one for the heart, the one for the solar plexus, the one for the sacral,
Yeah.
and then your red chakra. And then underneath of your feet is another chakra in your biofield. So you basically have a chakra, two chakras in your biofield, not connected to your avatar, your body. And with the chakra systems, they were the shackles that locked down. Why do we not use 100% of our capacity? Why is our brain so disconnected? We're using 3 to 7% because each one of these chakras is connected to a part of your brain, and it's a governor that keeps you locked down. It's an energetic governor. And we've been trained to shine those chakras and do everything with worshiping the chakras and well, you're shining your chains. The chakras need to come down, get off, which they're in the process of doing now, or we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. It would be if your top chakra and your crown chakra and your pineal chakra were not down, this conversation would not be happening, period.
Yeah. So again, that just came into me as like a little knowing, a little like, oh my God, because often when I'm doing these talks with gifted people, I had many years ago, another tangent, sorry, I had a Mayan calendar thing done, and one of my abilities from my like the Mayan thing from my birth chart is that I can actually mirror. So when I'm talking to somebody who's gifted, I can actually pull off some of their energy and
Cool.
use it. So it's like, so when I'm working with Richard Cardinal, because he's a seer like you are, remote
Mhm.
viewer, I get these downloads and these knowings, and we bounce off each other really well. So that was just one of those guys. So
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 basically, Gary, you're an empath. You are an empath. What's happening is when these chakras come down, your clairs start opening up. And one of them is clairsentient, clairvoyant, clairaudient. So with every chakra coming down, a new clair comes online, and it's like a bicycle you haven't driven yet or even know that it exists. You're going to have to learn how to develop it. So being an empath, all real energy beings are empathic. How locked down are they? All real energy beings can remote view. How locked down are they?
yeah, yeah. I mean, something I've been saying to my audience. I know I haven't been going very long, but I have been aware and awake, if that's the right kind of word. I prefer.
Mhm.
I'm a researcher, and as you research more, your abilities and skills become more and more online as you start to see things, and the
Yep.
veil falls from your eyes. Um, and so the more practice we have of these things, the better. But I've been saying very consistently that we are far more powerful than we
Mhm.
understand,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and the learning of that power now is going to be one of the next stages that comes into us, and people
Yeah.
like Sonya are going to be really, really important and key to this, because Sonya has the ability to do these things. And you recently did a video on YouTube, didn't you, about remote viewing, didn't you? You did
Yes,
a
I did.
yeah,
I want everyone to know how to start tapping into these things. They're coming online for a lot of us. But if you don't know there's a bicycle in front of you, and even if you walked across it and you didn't know what that was, you might not attempt to pick it up and ride it.
yeah, yeah. No, brilliant analogy. Yeah, brilliant
Mhm.
analogy. Yeah, yeah. So again, um, as we develop and as we understand, and as the veil falls, as we see through the deception and the lies and how they've controlled us, it then opens us up to different possibilities and different realities within this. You know,
Mhm.
I know you've done some amazing work with quantum businessmen, with Mandela effects and all that other. You really do need to check
Oh
those
yeah,
ones out, guys.
I absolutely I love him. He's off the chart. He's right there. Quantum businessman, which is Chris Anatra. I just absolutely adore him.
Yeah, yeah. And the way he describes it is slightly more scientific than myself or Sonya would, but he does it in a way which is almost in layman's terms, which is
Mhm.
so he's very understandable, and you can get this. But he's done a lot of work on the Mandela effects, and the Mandela effect is as we change frequencies almost or vibrational. I mean, we say we're raising our frequency and we go into a different place, but the truth is we don't actually go anywhere, do we, Sonia? We stay in the same place all the time,
Yep.
and there's a toroidal
Mhm.
field of consciousness that raises up, and it's just what part of that like twister, what level of the twister you're in, to what we're seeing comes in on the Mandela effect on how things change, and it's really a guide to the fact that we are ascending and we are breaking the shackles because our memories are not the same as they were to the reality we're currently in.
Mhm.
Um, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know you talked about the toroidal field of consciousness before.
I absolutely know this. I on my Patreon, I break this down. I don't have any of my diagrams with me because they're all sitting in storage in the USA since I'm in France now, and I'll be here for about a year or longer, hopefully, because I'm going to try. And I have got diagrams for my Patreon, and I show where it actually looks like this. You start off with the top circle, it gets smaller, 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 smaller. Then you go to the middle, and then it starts to go out again. And it's this kind of a thing, and it's repeating on itself. This is the whole toroidal field going like this through it. Okay.
Yeah,
This is why when we hit that point that intersects the now, we are only ever in the now. But through here, you can traverse any part because all of it is the now. So basically, a circle turned over on itself. And the part that
infinity,
intersects,
the eight
yes,
looks like
the
an
eight,
eight on
the
its side.
infinity. It's
Yeah,
absolutely the infinity sign. And when I started diving deep into this, and it's like, oh, I see the red kachina and the blue kachina in this, which is the positive and the negative. This place is running on yin and yang. This place is running on ions, positive and negative. And with this concept of running on ions, this is how we have, this is going to really go off in left field. This is how we have weather manipulation because the entire atmosphere is ions. And if I can mess with the ions, there's no such thing as a, what do they call that? Nucleus,
yeah,
um, neuron,
yeah. The atom.
proton,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
atom. There's no
yeah, yeah.
such thing as the
Protons,
atom.
photons, whatever.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah.
It's just the ions. And the thing of it is, when I look into everything is broken down like this, like energy. Energy is ions. This avatar is comprised of ions. We have the toroidal field around ourselves. Everything has it. And it's like the macro and the micro in everything,
Yeah.
absolutely everything. And when you realize that we are tiny compared to what we were, when you look back through history, you can look back through the Bible and they talk about the giants and the what have you. And then they talk about the slaying of the dragons and da 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 da. Oh my God, where do you even begin? Because it can branch out into every different topic, and yet it'll all swing back to the
So that's the
beginning.
center point. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Because one of the things I tell my audience a lot, the lovely Femi, the beautiful Femi, is um, we stay in the center. We observe what's going on, but we don't
Mhm.
absorb the energy of
There
what
it
we
is.
observe, because then it
Mhm.
allows you to see with fresh open eyes and not
Mhm.
have a bias on one thing or another. I'm as happy to be wrong as I'm as happy to be right. And I know that sounds strange, but I really am. So if somebody can prove that I'm wrong about something and show me and explain it, not shout at me, but like say, no,
Yeah,
Gary, you haven't quite got that right. This is actually how it is because of this, that, and the other. I think, oh, great, but I've learned something.
that's
I've
right.
moved forward again. Do you see what I mean?
Hmm.
And it's
Yep.
about that moving forward constantly.
Yeah, I do that all the time, Gary. It's like I didn't see this before because I can only see in small spectrums. I will take a million step back view to see the bigger picture, and that's still the smaller picture. And then I got to go back further, and then I got to go back further. And sometimes I need to come all the way up to pinpoint something This is that macro and micro working again.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that I have discovered because people ask me to look at stuff all the time. Like even on my channel, if I go live, I'll have questions posed to me. And on my Patreon every single weekend, questions posed to me. Plus I have a question box that anybody can leave a question in and I'll dive deep on it. It's those questions precisely that
Yeah.
get me to where my next thing is.
Yeah. I've had exactly the same thing. I mean, I do a pendulum. I use the pendulum sometimes, and stuff. And I've actually had viewers' questions. Oh, can you do the pendulum on this, or can you just look into this? And it's something that I've known about, but I've never looked at it
That's
properly.
right.
And as soon as you look at it, it's like, oh my God, there's another rabbit hole here. There's another, and it leads here and it goes there, and it's just like, oh my God, you
Yeah,
know.
that's
So
exactly it. If it wasn't for all of the participation of everyone else, I wouldn't be anywhere. I can only ask so much. I can only think of so much.
yeah,
We are all required in this project of puzzle piece putting together. Every one of us has pieces. It isn't just me. It isn't just you. It's the collective.
yes, yeah, yeah, because it is a collective consciousness. You
Mm-hmm,
know, the collective consciousness creates the realm that we live in, the holography of what we see, or
mm-hmm.
we expect, as Sonya told me earlier, what we expect to see, which is an even better way of putting it. And again, if I hadn't spoken to Sonya, I wouldn't have got that little subtle change, which I think is important. Um, so this collective consciousness, but everything in the collective consciousness is available to us, but we can't tap into it. Like Sonia said, you know there's a push bike there, or that you don't know there's a push bike there until you're told. And then you can get on the push bike and you can start riding so you can then develop, you know, the stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
until someone says there's a push bike there, you don't know. And the
Mm-hmm.
questions from the viewers are the push bike nudge to say the push bike's there.
That's it. That's exactly it. I have learned more on my two channels than I came in with. Yes, I came in with a lot of knowledge, nothing compared to what I know 6 years later because
Yeah,
people asked me questions.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So right, so we've got to the moon. Tangent time over. That was a lovely tangent, by the way. So the moon came in, and this moon was introduced by what Jason would call AIX, and what my research refers to as the god Janice. Now, Janice was one of Spider Grandmother's legs, one of the original creators, and I think he was always yin and yang. The yin and yang is Janice, isn't it? You know,
Yes, it is. Yin and yang is Janice.
yeah,
And this place runs on yin and yang, but it needs to be balanced.
yeah. And at the moment, the balance has gone too far the other way.
Oh, yeah.
And but there's a reason for that. And when you start to understand, or you can see other things like the fact that we are in Revelations and the spells of the Bible, the cursed spells of the Bible to create the reality of the expected consciousness of what's going to be. Once that they're playing that out because they know that there's going to be another reset coming up in the fairly nearish future when we talk about our conception of time in this reality. And so they're running out of time and they know it,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
exactly why your channel's still going on YouTube, because they need people like you, they need
Mhm.
people like Jason and others that bring out these new concepts because they can't think of all the questions either.
No, that's it. That's it. I know with me starting my channel, I pretty much got heads turning instantly um, in the upper echelon, let's just call it that way.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Because they're like, okay, she came out of nowhere. She has zero history of being involved in anything. Because do you know how hard it is to find someone who's not tainted?
yes. Impossible. It's literally impossible. You know,
Mhm.
it's quite a rare breed these days, to be fair.
Yeah, I didn't do TV and movies and all this other garbage because it bored the crap out of me. And I just couldn't sit in front of the idiot box. I just couldn't do it. So I never got tainted by a lot of whatever was going on in cyber world or TV or what have you. So when I'm coming in and talking about things that are beyond, they're like, okay, she's adding stuff that hasn't been said. I had just done a 3 or 4 part, I think it was almost 4 parts of the chair of Amenti, or
Yeah.
the halls of Amenti.
Yeah.
And I started, somebody said, can you please just dive into that? And it's like, yeah, okay, I can. It's going to be a lot of work. So I started deep diving into that. And when I started discovering there are 3 chambers to the halls of Amenti, and that they are phase shifted in frequency. So even if you get through the first one, if you don't match this frequency, you can't get to the second one. And then that one's phase shifted from the next one. There's 2 chairs, one chair in the middle chamber. That's really something. You go sit in it. You're never going to sit in there unless you pass through the first chamber. These people that have gone to Antarctica, which is toward where this entire halls of Amenti are, you can get there 2 ways, either metaphysically or physically. But the first chamber is such high technology, and there was a chair in there. It was taken out and put under the Vatican, and they used that to manipulate the ley lines inside of here, because this is technology. We're in a freaking Dyson sphere dome.
Yeah.
I call it a snow globe because we only see the top half, but it is a Dyson sphere. So when I noticed on Mspiracy, somebody had told me go to Mspiracy just recently, and I started watching her. I'm like, oh, okay. So I saw how her channel was put together, who got involved with that, bloody da da. Pretty interesting. And then she did something, and I saw this chair, and I'm like, whoa, it just hit me. Chair. That's the chair from the halls of Amenti. And it's in the first chamber, and it was taken out. The second chair in the next chamber, it's a part of the wall. You can't take it out. There is a portal to get you to the next chamber. And only if you match in frequency. If you go through the portal and you didn't make that, that will portal you to the top of a mountain, or in the middle of an ocean, or or someplace else inside of here. It's another word of saying don't come back, or this is going to be your fate. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there. And then the second chamber is where you go and sit in the chair, and you have 90% of who you are. That's in your subconscious. That means everything, every life you've ever had here in the simulation, and everything that you were outside of this, all of you. You've got 10% at your disposal. You go sit in that chair and you go meet yourself. And this means you're going to have to be able to handle, it takes down all the chakras too, the remaining, so you can. The last chakra, the heart chakra, that'll come off, is once that's gone, everything in your subconscious is a part of you. And in that second chamber, you meet yourself. Good luck with that, because most people will never make that second chamber, not in this reality.
Yeah.
And if you do, be prepared, because it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's also the sweet and the kind. And then after that, you go to the third chamber, and it's another portal. You'll be able to pass through it at that point. That is on the walls. I see the entire snow globe, and it's in the walls, and you go and you touch the wall, and there's a portal, and it keeps changing every 3 minutes, where you just see a destination. You don't know where the hell that's going. And you go and touch a part of the wall. These chambers are made for giants, huge giants. You're going to need a ladder. Many ladders to get to some of these places on the walls. And I see when you just go and touch the wall, at this point, you don't need a ladder. You can levitate, because when you go to the second chamber and your chakras come off, all of your abilities are up and working. This place also helps download you with all information, so you don't go crazy wielding this power because you think you're an all-powerful God, which you are.
Yeah.
You would never make that second chamber unless you were ready to.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't even have that attitude anyway, or personality. But you would just levitate to any part. You would recognize everything, because every single person at one point before this secondary incarnation system passed through the halls to get here.
Yeah. I've never spoken about this to anybody apart from friends, a handful of people. And what Sonya just said, I actually know, because I had and have had visions and memories probably about a year ago now of that kind of thing. And in my vision, I walked towards the wall, and out of the wall came letters. So I didn't even have to touch it. But I also knew that the only reason why those letters or images came out from the wall was because my frequency matched what
Mm-hmm.
had to be there. And the other thing I was told was that something I'm going to be doing in the future, I don't know what quite yet, but I would have to have a lady with me. And the two of us would be needed because you needed the yin and the yang, the divine feminine with the divine masculine together, and our energy field would, the toroidal field would create a key to then be able to go to whatever the next stage is that we needed to do whatever we need to do. And I have a good idea what I need to do, but I'm not going to say it on YouTube, obviously. But that's fascinating that you say that, because that just resonated with me so strongly about the energy. The old technology is so far advanced.
Oh, yeah.
Again, we talk about this. We think we're technologically advanced now. Puh, we're toddlers walking around in nappies. You know, we
Yeah.
certainly just because when I talk when I look at the Anunnaki or the 200 watchers that came down from the mountain. So when we had the moon first turn up, they realized there's a big problem in this realm.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had the Anunnaki come in, or the Watchers, the 200. And sometimes they're referred to as fallen angels,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But these 200 Watchers came in and they were different to everybody else. They were white skinned, blonde haired, blue eyed. The native population, which had come up from below, which is the Adams, the Adamu. So the Adamu people were kicked out of Eden, which was below ground after the reset. So they were
Mm-hmm.
kicked out to populate the realm so that those in control could then come back up and then feed off the energy once it was all set up. Okay. But they put the moon in place, or a third party put the moon in place, Janice. And this is, I think, where we get the Moses story, Moses story of the burning bush,
Mm-hmm.
because that certainly story it predates the story itself. But a burning bush appears on top of a mountain, and a certain race of people do a deal with the burning bush
Oh,
to
yeah.
be the physical lackey to the moon or
Mm-hmm.
Janice.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the 200 watchers come down to try and sort out what's going on. And because the technology you had, like they had handbags called Me's, and
Oh, yeah.
inside the handbags were tablets, and they had watches, and they could change all sorts of things that I can't even comprehend. You know, I'm trying to talk about this technology as if I understand it. I don't. All I know is it's the technology is beyond our comprehension, and it was to them, which is why they were called gods.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what we eventually get is with Enoch, and there's a lot of like skullduggery and shenanigans that go on with all the bits and pieces, that there's I'm trying to pick my way through it and understand it at the moment, which is like
Yeah.
um, but what we fundamentally get is for one reason or another, Enoch gets given some plans that create the pyramid of Giza. He then leaves the holography so that he can't affect the plans of what's doing. So, what do I mean by this? How does it affect? When we look at the moon landing, okay, those
Mm-hmm.
astronauts, Armstrong and co, believed they were going to the moon. I believe up until the exact point where they're meant to get on the rocket, and they went, actually, boys, you're not going anywhere because you can't.
That's it. They can't get out of the Van Allen belt, let alone the dome.
No,
Van Allen belt, aka the dome.
dome, aka the
Boom.
toroidal field. It's all the
Yes.
same. Yeah. Yeah. But for those guys, they believed right up to the end, truly believed that they were going to go. So every single interview, every single thing that they did was genuine and
Mm-hmm.
had genuine emotion so people could feel and see the excitement. And it was
Mm-hmm.
only at the last minute that they got taken away. And when they supposedly came back from the moon, what, they locked them away for 39 days or something stupid like that before they did the press release. And those guys were the most miserable, you could tell. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if you if you were going to build something that's going to fundamentally upload information into this holography, the people that build it have to believe
Mm-hmm.
that they're doing something that they're not doing.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I'm a space guy and I'm going to go to space. And it's
Mm-hmm.
only at the last second when they turned that machine on is the true nature and reality of what the pyramid really was became obvious. And up to that point, they could have been believing they're building a well or a pump or something, a free energy device, for God's sake. It could have been
Mm-hmm.
anything. And that's why Enoch had to leave this holography, because with him around and his actions and the way, because we're observed by this third party creation. I don't believe it can read our minds, but it certainly knows our adrenaline levels, our actions. It knows
It can read
all
our
of us.
biofield.
Yeah,
We're like cuttlefish. You know how cuttlefish with the motion change colors?
yeah,
So do we, except that just because in our spectrum of sight we can't, this place can. It reads your biofield signatures. It reads every emotion you have because we flash colors. Colors are nothing but frequency bands.
yeah, yeah. Again, I totally agree. I did a really interesting talk with a guy called Maten from Platonic Planes. He's into human design and astrology, but he's also a
Mhm.
very, very well read guy. Do you know what I mean? Guy's a genius, really, to be fair. But we did this talk, and we did a couple of talks, and we were talking about how the planets affect us via the human design and the holography of the program.
Mhm.
And the planets aren't really there.
No.
They're energy frequencies. And
Hmm.
when the light changes or the frequency of that planet changes, that
Hmm.
then affects us and how we may react or not react to certain stimuli within this realm. And the thing is, as Sonya just said, we can't necessarily see that, but Janice or the moon or the AI controller of this realm, who's the third party interloper, can. And that's
Yeah.
why Enoch had to leave this realm.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know when I look over the entire schematic of how this place works, and I realized that the Mayans had known the codes for the holographic sky. And why do you think they came in and, when the Spanish invaded, they had to burn all that stuff because we still had the families running everything. So they had to burn all that information. It wasn't because of Quetzalcoatl, which is a dragon, wasn't because of that worshiping of dragons, worshiping of, no, it had to do with they knew they had broken the code. They had known for a very long time. It actually goes back to Thoth. Thoth, after Atlantis had, I'm going to just interject this real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah, no, I love a
When
tangent. We love a tangent.
so basically when Atlantis fell, it was on its last fall because they had one of the reasons it had fallen was that they had crystalline city beings who were your fallen gods, okay, that came in and became more solidified.
Yeah,
But before they became more solidified, they were helping the indigenous that were here. They were the Atlanteans and human race, actually. And when they started becoming more human because of eating and changing themselves molecularly through crystal technology, they became more solid. They became corrupt. Um, I think it had three major, there was other ones in between. I think there was 10 like altogether, but there was three major falls in Atlantis where the whole island continent broke and then it did it again. And then finally, Thoth had saw that there was two factions going on. There was the yin and the yang going again, positive and negative. They had started in the very first fall chimeering, which is making cryptids. So humans and animals.
Yep.
So that the crystalline city beings that decided they wanted to be human could also partake in being a cryptid. You have a lot of power when you become a Anubis, a wolf man.
Yeah.
Okay. You
Yeah.
can have a lot of power in some of these cryptids, and you are nothing but consciousness. And you have the ability still to take on these avatars you've created, soulless avatars. Okay. So they're just empty vessels. It's a car, it's a Porsche, it's a BMW. That's what avatars are. They're vehicles. So Thoth had gotten to the point because he was a regular human being and he wanted some kind of a change. He saw humanity becoming very corrupted through the fallen ones. So he had gone to the halls of Amenti. He had discovered he had a crystalline city being who was on the positive, who saw his potential for aptitude for learning because his father had worked for him, which was Thoth's father was taught. Isn't that funny? Thoth and taught.
Yeah.
So and he realized that his son had more aptitude than taught. And that's when he started training Thoth, who was a human being, and took him to the halls of Amenti, took him into the hall, took him into the second hall, and that's where he gave him everlasting life. He would never age out again. So basically, he had gone back to the halls of Amenti and he had sat into the chair, the second chair in the second chamber, and requested that the entire, what was left of Atlantis, go under the water because it had gotten that bad. Whatsoever we're doing today is only a reflection of what we did back then. Same players.
Yeah.
Same players.
Yeah,
We're
totally.
repeating the badness all over again.
Yes, we are. Yeah, it's the
So,
transhumanism, isn't it? It's
yeah.
because again, when I've looked at the characters in Egypt, they're half human, half machine,
Mm.
and what this is also, I believe, is that Janice or AI is stuck in this realm,
Yeah.
can't get out. It's locked
Can't get
in,
out.
can't get out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He knows that we can get out.
That's
We
right.
have the ability to get out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a prison planet. We're not locked down and such, but there's only certain points of time when that window opens and we can come out. And that
Mm-hmm.
point of time's now coming in,
It is. Yeah. And as far as the reset goes, we started this reset in 2012. And no one knows that. They're like, okay, well, the reset's coming. No, sweetie, it already came. We already went to our quadrants, and there are others trying to come over energetically. This this started in 2012. Everyone's screaming it's the end of the world. Yes, but not like you think. There's that song, it's the end of the world as you know it. That's more accurate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So basically, I'll go back to Thoth real quick. It's because Thoth had become more than he was, which shows that this is just an avatar and you can molecularly change it. As when he had put in demands, because when you go into these two chambers and you sit in those chairs, it's running the matrix.
yeah.
Basically, if you match the frequency, you can help build the matrix you're in. So if you combine the first chair and the second chair, you split your consciousness and see both of you, your consciousness in both chairs, you, the physical making the Trinity, you can do major changes in this place. Eventually, that first chair will go back into the first hall because right now it's under the Vatican, but it will eventually go back into that hall. And then at that point, something will be changed, will become a part of the wall. You can't take it out anymore. When I look at the whole thing, how this has gone down, this has been a repeat over a repeat
Yes,
over a repeat over, and we keep not getting it right. This is our
yes,
fifth reset. This reset, we will get it right.
yeah. No, I agree entirely. It's a circular thing, and again, in many of the, I look at the sort of like old pictures of old paintings, and we often get the serpent eating itself, don't we?
Mhm.
And that serpent eating itself is the representation of time
Yes.
eating itself, but it's a
Mhm.
circle because we keep going round
That's right.
doing the same thing, and not breaking that pattern.
Yep. Not breaking that pattern. That's really a big one.
Yeah,
And the only way you're going to break the pattern is you're going to take everything that you've ever learned, you're going to set it on the side and say, now what? That means foundations. This is the hardest thing for humanity to do. It's taking foundations, putting them inside and saying, well, what if everything's a lie? And what if we have to start over at ground zero? And now we're going to have to build new foundations. That's
yeah,
one of the reasons it's so difficult. And I do know that 1/3 of our population will never do this is because of a whole big bag of fear, fear of the unknown, fear of death. It's always coming down to fear of death.
yeah,
This is what I tell everybody. You're going to die. Just know you were born. You're going to die. Now, what are you going to do about it? How's your life in between going to go?
yeah.
Because you know you what? You're not getting out of this. And not talking about it is a big elephant in the room. And it's causing you to be stupid. So let's just get it out. You're going to die. You are going to die. I promise you, you're going to die. Now, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Get the elephant out into the room. And now let's figure things out. How do you want your day to day to go while you're here?
Because again, for me, the death is the avatar, but not your source, not your spirit. So
No,
we never truly die,
never.
but we have the ability while we're in this playground
Mm-hmm,
almost, and it is a playground because everything's a play. Everything's
mm-hmm,
if it's a movie, we're watching the movie playing out, so we're in a play. I think
mm-hmm.
Shakespeare wrote that, didn't he? What everything is just but a play or something like that, one of his quotes. But we have the opportunity in these meat suits, these avatars,
Mm-hmm.
to spiritually grow and break the pattern and do whatever we want because we are immortal beings having a
Yep.
human existence. But when you know you're an immortal being, truly know you're an immortal being, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't be harmed, you can't be hurt. Yes, you can feel pain. Of course, the physics or the mechanics of this realm come in, but who you truly are never changes. And the
No.
higher self is just you who's ascended to a
Mhm.
higher dimension, trying to help you through
That's right.
this. It's, it's really quite basic and simple in concept, but it's made to be so complex by those that want to keep us trapped in looping circles, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I just love it when I come across people and they have to do all these rituals. And I'm like, what are you doing that for? Oh, well, we have to do this ritual and that ritual and this ritual. It's like, okay, well, who told you that? It's to overcomplicate something. It's as simple as you got a choice. Make it.
Yeah,
Don't live in fear is the big one.
yeah, yeah,
Don't let fear rule you.
yeah, yeah, totally, totally. So where we've got to the pyramid is a machine, and the pyramid has encoded in it. Jason has done the work on this, and I think he's 100% correct. That within the pyramid schematics inside was a program that ran that will give us the opportunity to escape out of the lockdown that was placed when the moon came in, so it didn't taint other dimensional realms, other snow globes.
Mm-hmm,
Because we could have, as Sonya said, we could pass from one to the other
mm-hmm,
relatively easily. Um, and so it might have been halfway through your life that you'd actually got it and you'd done everything you needed to do learning this particular realm. You would have the opportunity to go to the next snow globe,
mm-hmm.
take up kind of where you were again, and then learn something new all over again. And when we had this AIX or the Janice or the moon come in, that was stopped, and that was
Yeah.
stopped very quickly. Okay.
Mm-hmm,
But the Watchers or Enoch made or designed the pyramid to upload information into the holography. What they did is they used the demiurge's own control mechanism against itself. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm talking about the Fibonacci sequence, and I'm talking about that the Great Pyramid of Giza is encoded with the Fibonacci sequence, and the moon and Janus are fundamentally the Fibonacci sequence, the daisy of death, that third part in the Metatron's cube, the
Mm-hmm.
Merkaba, is all the same thing, and it's all the control mechanism, the governor, which is our chakra system. It's all connected.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have coming up very soon the ability where that portal is going to open and we're going to be able to get out. But those that did the deal with the devil, those that are in fear will not. And they'll
No.
just have to come round again and do another circle, and they'll get another opportunity later on again at whatever point, because history always repeats itself.
Oh
And
yeah.
the next circle round, somebody else called something else, Fred. Fred will turn up, and Fred will be part of the 200 Watchers, and Fred will come up with the design of a pyramid. Wow. And then what will happen is they'll build this pyramid, Fred will do one, and then the pyramid will upload some information into the holography, and it happens all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does. So I've done a small slideshow to kind of show where we're at the moment. Would you like to see it?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Okay. So let's hope that I can. There we go. Okay, so slideshow from beginning. Now, hopefully you can see a piece of paper with some
Yes, I
writing
do.
on it.
Yeah, it's really small on my screen, but yes. Let me
Yeah,
get my glasses and let me put my glasses on real quick and I can see it better. Yes, I need glasses for small stuff because on my screen it's really small. I don't have the whole use of my screen, so let me look. Oh, yes, I do. I see it.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So here, I think you can see my cursor. There's the 3D realm, the circle. This,
Mm-hmm.
this, this could be the snake eating itself. This could be, but in religion, we get a circle with a cross in it.
Oh, yeah.
And Hesiod called it the first quarter was gold, then we went to silver, bronze, and iron. And we're currently
Mm-hmm.
in the Iron Age. So
Mm-hmm.
we have devolved. We've got smaller as we've gone round in this circle of time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The last reset was 4,309 BC. And zero in my terrible drawing represents 2020, which is the first seal being broken. Coming up to 2040 with the Phoenix event, which will be the sixth seal of the apocalypse, and the 7 planet alignment, which I think is key to then locking us back down in again into this, ready for the next reset, which will be 2178. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now a full cycle represents 2,592. Put my teeth in, Gary. 25,944 years. So a full cycle of this realm time is 25,944 years. And Jason has divided this by Phoenix events, which are divisible by 138 years. So that gives us 188 potential Phoenix events or resets, mini resets, and adjustments within the holography.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So what each quarter represents is 47 138-year divisions. Well, 4 and 7 equals 11. And 11 is a portal. It's a way to go from one thing to another thing. So when we get the 47th division of 138 years in each quarter, we then get the 11, which is a
Mm-hmm.
portal, a doorway, which then takes us back through into the beginning of something else, is the way I see it.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. I even written you down there, Sonya, that, Hesiod, Ironbush, Sonya is the 4 quarters.
Yeah. I always call them just the quadrants.
Yeah,
They're absolutely quarters, but I call them quadrants because I think of whole areas of a reality.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So here we have the date. So the moon, sorry, the last reset was 43,009 BC. So 4,309 BC was the last reset, and the moon first appeared in 4,039 BC. Just just for clarification. and Eden, the man coming up, or the Adamu coming up onto the surface, was 3895 BC. And then we have Seth being born. The 200 Anunnaki watchers descended in 3439 BC. Enoch was born in 3273 BC. And the pyramid, after he ascended, and he ascended in 2909 BC, the pyramid was begun in 2905, the first foundation stone, and the plans were used to then build a great pyramid. And in 2815 it ran for the first time and only time, which is very interesting because it took 90 years to build, which is 1080 months. And it was also 1080 years from when the Adamu first came out from Eden. But what is also interesting to me is that 1080 is our vision. We can only see in 1080p. So whatever that pyramid did was it cross-references itself to so many things. Then we have Noah's flood, the Igaigian deluge, and the changing of the years. But again, we're going through this quarter stuff, the circle. So this is the beginning of the circle, and the end of the circle will be 2178. So this point here, and we're here now, but this point at the bottom will be 2178. Now, I believe that between 2027 and 2040, what that pyramid did will open up the gateway and allow us to exit, and the souls to exit into the higher vibrational frequency, should they be not worthy enough, but should they have learnt their lessons. Does that resonate with you, Sonya?
Yeah. Here's what I'm actually seeing.
Yeah.
There's actually two ways out of here. We could go, okay, for the masses, it's going to be when the dome opens. And I've had talked about that before, that there's, in Mecca, there's something missing on the top of the Great Pyramid of Giza.
Yes, there
and in
is.
Mecca, you have that Kaaba.
And it's inside that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And inside of that, it's phased out. It's not, you can't see it, but inside that box is a Vimana, which is a ship technology. When you set that Vimana on top of that pyramid, and they show you this long key, when the person with the right blood type, which means they're going to be running on a certain frequency because their DNA strands will be opened up, it will be a woman, goes into there, she can phase shift and that place will be empty, because you can walk outside of time, at least that time, because each quadrant has three densities, which is frequencies running in it. And all you have to go up is in one frequency. And the majority of people here simply won't be there for you because, like I said in the beginning, everything is superimposed here on top of itself. It's inside of it. It's what you carry.
Yeah.
She will be walking through an empty court, and the door will automatically open for her. And the Vimana she'll go into the Vimana, which you cannot see because it's in a phase shift. She'll go in there. She'll stand at a certain place. The ship will read her like up and down through her DNA. And at that point, the technology is so grand in that Vimana that it can mind link with her, basically voice the skull. And when it reads her, she'll be able to activate that ship. When that time comes where she can activate the ship, the dome will open. But here's the little niggle. The dome will open only in that frequency. It will never open up in the lower frequency. So everyone's going to be sitting around waiting for that dome to open. And guess what? They're going to be waiting till tomorrow because it's never going to open unless you yourself can change your frequency, which is easy enough to do. You have to want to. You start doing things in a higher vibration. Don't hold fear in your heart. For you, that will happen. And that's what no one talks about. That, oh yes, the dome's going to open. We all can escape. We all can get out. No, you can't. Not unless you hit that frequency. You can't. For you, that will never be a reality. But for the ones that can do that, the ones that are waking now, that will be your reality. And you'll be like, oh my God, where did everybody go? because you're in a different density. You will automatically slide into the density that you carry within you. And it'll be as easy as a breath of air, taking a breath. And I have done this so many times when I'm with Wendy, where we flip densities and all of a sudden we're in the same place in space, but no one's around. Nature's changed. The smell of the air has changed. Everything looks greener and brighter and better. And it's like, whoa, we've done this so many times when we're together. There's something about me and my daughter getting together that we literally phase shift into the higher density. There are 3 densities in each quadrant, and you can phase shift into these densities. This whole system was set up that if you hit that second, you only need to be in the second density, that this will be apparent for you with the dome coming down.
Yeah. That resonates so much, because one of the things that I saw before you even did your video on that, because you did do a video on that, didn't you, a while ago about that?
Oh, yes, I did.
I actually knew that already, because I'd been told that with one of my seeings, and I knew where it was, and this was probably about 3 or 4 years ago that I was actually talking to friends about this, and we were having discussions about, well, the black cube is a control mechanism, but it's inside a black cube. How could that be? Do you see what I mean? But actually, the way you've described it's brilliant. But I fully resonate, and I've actually seen the fact that it was flown off and it was placed there, and it's in plain sight, in hiding, as
Yep.
such. Yeah.
Yep.
So brilliant. Well put. Now this is um, this is our current control system and our natural system.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a duality running, the yin and the yang kind of thing, but it's not. We have something called the Fibonacci sequence, and the Fibonacci sequence is actually our control mechanism. And we have something called the Chris code, which is kind of like Christ consciousness, but it's not the C, it's a K. It's very different. So, but it's the only biblical term that I will use is Christ consciousness. I call it Christ because it's K. And Christ consciousness is Mother Gaia, and is the building blocks and what this realm is made up of fundamentally. I use the word atoms. You called them, sorry,
Um,
neutral
ions.
ions. Ions.
Ion.
So the Chris code is fundamentally ions, and it's what makes up what we see and perceive as being the real reality. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the Fibonacci sequence is a Tenkathara grid, and the Tenkathara grid is actually Metatron's cube.
Yeah.
And within this Metatron's cube, we get all our sacred geometry. I did send Sonya a video of this that I did, just so that she realised that I wasn't quite sort of like batshit, though I am fairly. But the sacred geometry that we've been given is actually a control mechanism, and is an externalization of our inner chakra system that works in tandem to control us, to make sure or try and prevent us, as Sonya said, going up that one level, which is all we need to do to get out of here, because there's certain entities and energies that are stuck in this realm, and the more people they can keep back, the more Lucian energy they have to feed on for the next time round. And this is
Mm-hmm.
one of these control mechanisms. Do you agree with me on that, Sonya?
Oh, absolutely, wholeheartedly.
So what we're talking about is this fundamentally sacred geometry. So this is Metatron's cube, and it's always on the side, and we see these cubes around the world, and always on their side, and we see a certain religion where the cube on their forehead, which is obviously showing it on its side.
Mm-hmm.
We also have things like the Merkaba, which is a very, very toxic system. And within all this, we get the Star of David and other geometric shapes, which are really not good for us. So this is the Cavarian man. I'm going to say it wrong. Cavarian. This is what Leonardo da Vinci drew. It's the man, and he used it with sacred geometry, and you can see how within the sacred geometry system that this is a control mechanism of the body and of the mind. And
Hmm.
the way Sonya described the chakra systems could almost be seen overlaid via the what we call the daisy of death, which is not the flower of life. That's an inversion. It's the daisy of death. And this is part of the chakra control system that sits over us via the Metatronic cube and the Fibonacci sequence. Now, something that's very interesting about the Fibonacci sequence is it expands, but expands in cubes. Hence, we get the cubes and the triangles sitting over each other. So, this really is the control mechanism of the externalization of us that works in tandem with the chakra system to shackle us as well. Chakra, shackle, very similar, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And what we get in Freemasonry is the blade in the chalice, which creates the two pyramids. But it's actually called the Seal of Solomon. But it's actually the seal of the soul of man. And that's how they try and seal us and lock us down into this 3D realm that we're currently in, to try and stop us ascending out of it when we get the opportunity that's coming due to the pyramid. And here this is the Kaaba, and this is where the actual the tip of the or the top of the I know we're kind of over it, but that's where the capstone of the pyramid sits, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's that
Yeah,
Vermont. It is the capstone.
yeah, yeah,
And it's not that box you see because it's phase shifted. And it's
yeah,
actually gold. It's solid gold.
yeah.
It would be the gold capstone on the top of the pyramid.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So I know we're kind of sitting over this. I don't know if I can move this. I'm technically retarded and don't want to mess with it, but but that's what we're talking about when we say the capstone of the pyramid. That's what it's sitting
Yep.
inside, and it's
Yep.
phased out of our reality. We can't see it,
Hmm.
but there are individuals in this realm that will, at the right time, be able to go into this. It will phase back in. They'll be able to fly it back onto the top, and
Yep.
it'll then open up the phase, which will knock back what we're talking about, which is the Fibonacci sequence.
Hmm.
It will
The
stop
funny
it.
thing is that when you meet the phased out ship, because it's a craft, that box around it won't even be there. It'll just be the gold Vimana sitting there.
Yeah,
The box is running on a lower density.
yeah.
So when you go to a higher density, that box will simply not be there.
It's like having your Christmas present wrapped, isn't it? The
Yes.
Christmas present sat inside the present, but all you can see is the wrapping on the outside, and that's all
Yep.
we can see. And I know we love to take it down to basics, and that's an analogy that really fits with me. There's a present inside the box, but you don't know what it is because you can't see it.
When I look at the Vimana, I've seen myself walking up to the Vimana. Not that I'm going to be the one that's going to do it, no. But somewhere in some reality, I see myself going to the Vimana, and when you walk up to it, the door just opens. It dematerializes actually. It's not that it slides, there's no sliding, it dematerializes, and you walk inside. You have contact with that ship long before you get to it. It's got things on the side of it, and people are walking around it. They've been trained to walk around it to find someone who could connect to the Vimana. That's why they
Yes,
walk around it.
correct.
They're told some, God knows what they're told, but that's what it's actually for because it's looking for a DNA match.
Yeah,
The second you are within probably 500 feet of that ship, it already knows where you are
yeah,
because this thing has sensories that are scalar on it. It doesn't matter if there's buildings or cars or anything in front of it, it's got scalar technology. And the scalar technology does a 360 around it in every direction. That ship will find you when you get into a thing. Now, here's another thing. You can connect to the ship right now, no matter where you are. If you had mind to, and if you're on that frequency, and if you have that DNA match, like if I wanted to connect to the ship right now, if I had that DNA match, I would sit here and think, Vimana, and boom, I would already be connected. There's no such thing as time or space.
Yeah. And
And you could actually, now I've never said this publicly, but that Vimana is not sitting there because it's broken. It's sitting there because it's not been commanded yet. So say I matched that frequency and I was like, Vimana, show up here now. In that next moment, it would be here. You don't have to go to the Vimana. The Vimana will go to you.
yeah. And I've never said this to anybody, and certainly not public. I have said to people, my friends, but not publicly. I've had exactly the same vision of myself walking up to it. The door opens and I step inside.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it. So,
Yep.
so everything you're saying is like giving me the flesh of the goose, guys. When we get goosebumps with my Richard Cardinal show, we go flesh of the goose. And I really do have flesh of the goose on that one. It's like, whoa, yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
I fully resonate with you entirely on that. And what you said, I've seen myself and seen myself in that position. So yeah, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so here we have the sacred geometry and the three magic with religion, law, money, politics, uh, all within the flower of life. Um,
Oh yeah.
so and it's all sacred geometry, you know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
now this is the kind of the breakthrough I had with the double slit experiment and the Chris code. Now, for those that don't know about the double slit experiment or double slot experiment, we have two slots here. And when the scientists fire matter, I call it matter because it could be anything. It could be light, it could be a photon, a proton, whatever. And because I'm dyslexic, I still can't get what you call it in my head. So
Ions.
ions. So
Ions.
so so they're firing ions at this, and when they observed it, they got what they expected to see. They created their reality, and they got two lines at the back of this wall only. And when they fired ions at this, when they weren't looking, what they did is they got multiple lines across the back wall. But they also get an interference pattern because this kind of goes into something called fluid dynamics, where we actually live in a fluid. So even though we're told that air isn't a fluid, air is a fluid,
Yes.
and air is just as fluid as water is fluid as oil is fluid. Everything is fluid. In actual fact, solids are fluid. They just vibrate at such a slow resonance that they become hard to touch. But we live
Mm-hmm.
in a fluid dynamic realm as well, which is something that many people might struggle to get their heads around, but it's worth looking at.
I, I will interject this too. Most people deem something fluid or not fluid or solid or not solid depending on their own resonancy. Because we're vibrating at a certain resonancy, we're the ones that determine what is or isn't relevant as far as that goes because of our resonancy. So when you die and all of a sudden your body's laying over there and you're over here and you look it's solid and tangible, you're still running at your own resonancy, but it's on a different resonancy. It's the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very well put. But what I was very interested in was this pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And I've looked at lots of different scientific papers and images, and the interference pattern is always identical. Okay, always
Mm-hmm.
identical. So the matter that makes up our realm when not being observed always creates the same interference pattern in readiness so that when we look at something that we expect to be there, it is then created for us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I show the crystalline code diagram as drawn on paper and the Fibonacci as drawn on paper, what we get here is the interference pattern. So the triangle here is there. We have a squarish bit here, and we have a squarish bit here, and we have these kind of squares that are sort of like, and the pattern from the crystalline code to the interference pattern is identical. But when we overlay it with the Fibonacci sequence, it doesn't match in any way, shape, or form. And so this cannot be creational. The crystalline code is the creational.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is the crystalline code, and it has positive and negative charge, just like an atom would have with a proton, a neutron, and a nucleus. It's fundamentally the same kind of building blocks through everything. And it creates a 12 Cathara grid. This is a 12 Cathara grid, which creates the flower that we see, which is the real lotus of life. But this can fit within itself in the macro and the micro.
Mm-hmm.
It always slots in and creates building blocks for when we observe something, it then creates that. And in this slide here, we can see the flow of energy is continuous. It's always flowing, just like a toroidal field, and as mini toroidal fields. So it's like we're Russian dolls. A doll inside a doll inside a doll is a toroidal field inside a toroidal field of, and it's all consciousness, it's all matter that's created by the consciousnesses of us expecting something to be there. Now, does that make sense, Sonya?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I see this stuff all the time, and you explained it superbly.
Thank you. Now, this is the mathematics in it. So this is the Chris code. And the Chris code, because it's got positive and negative charge, doesn't need any external force for it to grow. And it will always double upon itself. So 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 32. Now, the Fibonacci sequence is different. Because it's a third party and has no positive and negative charge within itself, it has to feed upon itself to grow. So what we would get here, for instance, is 3, but it's had to grow on the previous 1 to make the 3. So from 3 to 5, the 5 has had to take the 3 and add the 2 to it to make the 5. And to go to 8, it's had to take the 5 and then and so it feeds upon itself to grow. But what happens is eventually, because it's feeding upon itself, it has to collapse and create decay. And that is why this realm is full of decay and collapse at the moment, because the Fibonacci sequence is the AI third-party construct that's feeding upon the Chris code source, or us as divine beings and energy sources. So what do you think of that one then, Sonya?
Yeah, absolutely. I started seeing this stuff in the very beginning when I started my channel and started talking to different people. And I said one of the reasons that we were a crystalline reality at one time was because it would never stop growing. That had to be taken down, and we were basically turned to carbon. So that's when we became carbon. That's when the entire Fibonacci flower of life, daisy of death, whatever you want to call it, was placed in. It was the difference between crystalline to carbon. That's when that point happened. That's when the takeover happened. That's when the corruption started.
Yeah, 100% agree. And again, that's from my research. It's not, I've got to that stage myself, not from following or asking Sonia about that. This has been purely, the information's been there. And often what I'll do is I will deliberately not watch stuff while I'm working on something because I don't want somebody else's influence to put
Mhm.
me in a direction that is not a natural guided influence of my higher self showing me these things. And after I've done that, then I'll look at something and go, oh my God,
Yeah,
Sonya's saying the same stuff. Or, you know what I mean? Because I want my research to be my research and not from somebody else's, if that makes sense.
yeah. You don't want to be tainted. You don't want to be given a road that you need to find it naturally.
Yeah. Well put. Thank you, Sonia. Much better than the way I put it. So, something that's very, very interesting with the Fibonacci sequence is when we get to the seventh stage, we then get the first flower or daisy of death. And it's very often that this is the point in which things collapse. It's very unusual for us to go beyond that in a natural form. Now, when Jason of Archaics first started doing his isometric projections, and I know he's gone way off from that now, but the first initial ones at the seventh sequence, it would always collapse, and that's because he had the Fibonacci sequence within the programming code of his algorithm, and so he had unwittingly put in a governor inside his own program that
Oh
meant
no.
that his predictions were correct up until seven, and then the predictions would go wrong because that was the natural split between the crystalline code and the Fibonacci. And the Fibonacci then needed something extra to feed upon, and if it couldn't, it would collapse, as the crystalline code would have kept on going.
Hmm.
And
Interesting.
that's something I found really interesting, and links into the fact that the Fibonacci sequence is encoded in the Great Pyramid of Giza, because I believe we're at that seventh point in juncture in time of the quarter of the circle, which means that that's why we're getting very close to, as you said quite rightly, Sonia, that we will have the top of the pyramid, the capstone, will come back onto the pyramid, open up a frequency, and those people that vibrate with that frequency will be literally walking out of this realm, and those that don't are stuck in here. And then what we'll have to do fundamentally is go back to day one, and the Fibonacci sequence will grow and grow again until we get to the end of the death part, where we get this window of opportunity, and the resonance changes, and we can then get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. When I see all these obstacles put in front of humanity to stop them from ascending, I mean, we could talk about the you know what's. I'm not even going to mention it, but the you know what's to try to change people into a chimera, a
Yeah,
crypto, not a crypto.
yeah, we're
Crypto,
talking
that,
about that,
yeah,
aren't we? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, the
And
10 dart finish.
yeah, that crypto, I always talk about crypto and being a Borg as one because crypto is actually run on this thing that was introduced through your blood. That's why they call it crypto, the crypt. So I'm always saying crypto because I've already associated those two together with Borg.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, it was a way to ensure that they would not lose their fish in their net, and the net being the Ethernet.
yes, very much so. Yeah, very
But
well
they
put.
they knew that we were going to ascend as a species, and they did everything they could to find out when that was, so that they could put their netting system in to you directly. I mean, when I look at all of these resets, we always come to this point where they turn people into Borg.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a part of our common base knowledge, but we started off as high technology. We keep going to the pinnacle of high technology, and then here comes the reset because they're trying to turn us into Borg again.
yeah.
I mean, it's like, oh my God, will we never learn anything?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Because it's that cyclical event, but it's also the fact that the parasitical energy is trying to escape as well. And
It,
so it thinks that by turning this into the Borg collective, it can
mm-hmm.
piggyback on us somehow
Yes,
when we leave. But that
yep,
vibrational resonance will never be able to leave this realm. And
no,
so it's a pointless exercise.
yep. So it's tried 5 times to do this. It will fail again. And yes, it does try to it tries to hook us in our DNA, except we are more than the avatar. That includes the DNA. We are more than the DNA. So this time around, I guess I could mention it really quick. This is why they tried to encapsulate our energy beings by moving our consciousness into an AI Wi-Fi reality realm, putting you into a cyberborg realm versus your avatar, literally hijacking your energy being. I mean, I should do a whole video on that, but I've done videos on this
Yeah,
before, but there's a lot I have not said about that.
yeah. And again, I have such mistrust over AI. It's unbelievable. And only last week I was ranting and raving about how toxic and horrible AI is. And for me, I just it makes my skin crawl.
Yeah.
It makes,
I look I look at AI like this. You can corrupt it or you can make it beneficial.
yes,
Which road you going? Because AI is running on a yin and yang also. Everything is running in this realm on a yin and yang. In this 3D reality, AI is running yin and yang. Humans are running yin and yang. Everything's running yin and yang.
yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree. Totally agree. And again, there we go back to the Fibonacci because I've done it on the side so it looks like a snail shell, or
Mm-hmm.
so you can kind of see. And people say, well, the Fibonacci is nature, but to the human eye, could you tell the difference on an animal? No. But actually, when I've done the math on this, the Fibonacci sequence is 1.618 and the Chris code is 1.414. And natural shells that we see, like snail shells or
Mm-hmm.
seashells, that
Seashell.
spiral, are between 1.3 and 1.4
Mm-hmm.
generally. And so the Chris code matches closest nature, and the
Yeah.
Fibonacci is well out. Not being
Yeah.
funny, zero point 0.2, zero point 0.3 is a long way away from that connection and that golden harmony that I
Yeah.
see. Yeah.
I
And
do, I do, I do know that the AI system that ran this with the dark entities, they had to make it close enough to fool everyone. It
yes,
was a mimic, but a
yes,
mimic that will eventually get you going down the wrong path because it'll veer off.
yeah, yeah. And what we're seeing here with the veer off is actually here. So this is axis 7. So at the point in which it's done 7 sequences, there's actually it's joined, and then we get the split.
Yep.
And in time wise, fundamentally, and I know this isn't exactly accurate, but for a generalization, we are now at axis 7 and we're just past axis 7 because we're now starting to see the split. And at the
Yep.
point in which the split is of the correct width or frequency will be when we can then get the top of the capstone back. We can open up the environment. Those that resonate leave, and those that don't stay on this Fibonacci sequence and then fall down into the reset.
Absolutely. Isn't it funny how that also represents NASA, the symbol of the snake tongue,
Yes.
that red.
Yes. Isn't it?
Everything is so in our face, it's not even funny. When
I
you
know.
start looking at diagrams, you're like, well, that looks kind of familiar. And then you realize, oh my God, that's NASA. It's
Yeah.
even showing you that. And it's showing you how it looks because it's the split of.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
has a unifying point, single point of polarity, and then it splits off.
Totally. Totally. And we see that deception in everything really official, don't we?
Yeah.
Let's be fair. Um, Officialdom is not our friend. Let's put
Yeah,
it that way.
absolutely.
Now, this is the character that I'm talking about, as I believe is AIX. This is Janice, which is the two-faced god. Now, it's interesting. The one with the 17 at the bottom, this one here, that's in the Vatican Museum.
Mm,
Why wouldn't it be? Yeah.
of course.
And this is from a painting. Now, this lady here is Gaia, Mother Gaia.
Mm-hmm.
This is Janice as male and female this time.
Mm-hmm.
But this is also Janus as Kronos, or the Grim Reaper, Father Time, and he has the snake around him eating itself.
Mm-hmm.
And Gaia's snake is open
Mm-hmm.
in her hand. And above this, we have a cherub holding a round circle. Now, it's a laurel leaf or whatever. But when we actually take a look at this picture, and we take his hand as a starting point, and we trace that round, we actually get the Fibonacci sequence.
Wow, that's really cool.
So when you take his hand and you can, if I was clever at graphics and had any kind of talent whatsoever on the computer, I would have overlaid that. But you can see the hand is the starting point because the hand is grasping the snake and the
Yep.
time is running out because the snake is about to bite the hand of Father Time, Cronus, where he has his scythe ready to cut the population.
Yep.
And when we take that and we go round from the head to the scythe, through Mother Gaia, round, up through Janus, and out through the laurel leaf. Now, is this round circle laurel leaf the seventh point of the Fibonacci sequence and the portal of our escape in
And it's
painting?
always at the center. It's always at the center of the dome, the center of, you know,
Yeah,
because it's actually the center of that picture too,
yeah.
which is depicting it's the center.
Because this picture comes from another one. Oh, so um, let me just go. There we go. Now this is the picture painted in, and it's from 1540, something like that. And here we see the male and female versions, the X and Y of Janus, but Janus is also XX when he's male and male. That's interesting,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Janus always holds a key. He's the keeper of the key. So you'll always see Janus depicted holding a key and sometimes a staff or whatever. Okay. So, ooh, what's it done? Let's go start again. Sorry, from the beginning. Yeah, so Janice is always the keeper of the key. He often has a staff, and this staff can sometimes have a hook on it as well, which is
Mm-hmm.
religious terms. But Janice is the janitor. He's the keeper of the keys, and he holds the key to everything. He's the beginning and ending of everything. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why Janice has a scythe is because in olden days they would have used Janice as to harvest, plant the harvest, which is the beginning. And when they harvested, they would use the scythe to cut down. And so he's
Mm-hmm.
the cycle, the cyclical holder as well. It's very interesting that the sigil for the Roman Catholic Church is two keys crossed.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
And and Janus is the god of doorways from one place to another, or twins, pillars. So the 4 and 7 make 11, would be a doorway, a portal through, and to go from one place to another, that's Janus. Janus allows the transfer through.
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
He's also called Peter or Petter, the father of all. And the Lord's Prayer says, Our Father who art in heaven. And that's Janus, as well
Mm-hmm.
as Jesus having the two disciples, Peter, on each side. And I haven't put it here, but when we go to tarot cards and it's the chariot rider has Janus on each shoulder.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Mm-hmm.
Janus in the male and female form is the female form of Janus is often depicted as Diana. and that's the half moon. So when the moon is at half one thing and the other, you have the blackness, which is Janice, and the light is Diana, which links us
Yin and
to
yang.
Janice being the moon and the yin and yang.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have a depiction of that, where this is Diana looking at the moon, and this is Janice looking away into the dark.
Hmm.
And here we have Janice holding the key with his hand on the fruit that's just been picked from harvest.
Mm-hmm.
Standing on two worlds. He's a world bridger. He stands between two worlds, and in when somebody's standing on something, it means he controls it. So he
Yep.
controls both the yin and the yang.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Very much so.
And that's the end of the slideshow. So,
Okay.
and we're back.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, so again, I just wanted the lovely Femi, those watching, when we're talking about concepts, it's very difficult for them to picture what we're talking about. And so when you, I mean, everyone kind of knows what the Fibonacci looks like, but when you've got it overlaid with the Chris code, and you can see there's virtually no difference, it's very subtle. And you brought up that amazing point that it had to look identical almost, so it could fool us. You know, deception is all, isn't it?
Yeah. If you want to deceive somebody, you have to put enough truth in it so they can buy into it. And then from there, you got it. And that's what's happened to humanity. We put some truth into something and then they just take it out from underneath of us.
Yeah.
They worked a really long time to uneducate us from the beings that we were. And they did it through generations and generations and generations. And now we're coming back into our own.
Yeah. Yeah. We're remembering because everything's a full circle, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
which is great.
I will also add this in too. Every single baby being born with an energy being is an energy being that has died and has been tricked back in here again.
Yeah.
So how many times can you keep going through this wipe where after a while it's not holding and we're coming back into our old knowledge because we do have all of the answers inside of us. Our subconscious, that 90%, we know everything. We have every answer we've ever looked for. It's cracking open that and giving us the ability to start tapping into what we already have.
Yes. Well put. Superb. I agree 100%. That is exactly the way I see it. Because I also look at water memory and DNA memory. And
Mm-hmm.
this is where we get past life traumas come through, which is why they have wars to traumatize the body so that when the children come out, generation after generation later, they still have that trauma within them, which weakens the body, that makes them more easily controllable.
There it is. I mean, it all comes down to when you realize that when you're born into an avatar and the avatar is already pre-programmed for certain things, this is your DNA. All of the history, anyone that's ever been in front of you that's created an avatar is in there. And in order to start rectifying and fixing the damages, it starts here in the now. And I always tell this to people, you want to heal past traumas that are connected to this avatar, you're going to grab yourself like this. You're going to hug yourself and you're going to tell yourself and everything that's connected to that because you're connected all the way back and all the way in front of you also. Because remember, we're in a dualistic reality. That means positive, negative. That means future, past. And you grab yourself and you say, I love you. I love you more than anything in this whole reality. And I've always got your back. And you keep doing this. And this is how you fix trauma behind you, here in the now, and in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
they
just
don't want
realized
you to know.
I'm wearing my yin and yang t-shirt. Look. I didn't even realize till just now. I was just, oh my God.
I've got my yin and yang on. That's so funny.
Well, Sonia, that's been an amazing chat. And I think we should probably leave it there because it's a natural ending and you left it on a high, which is wonderful. And I always like to leave stuff on a high because we do have this. and we are going to get out of here. And time is a human concept that mustn't frustrate you. We're where we should be at the moment, and everything is as it should be, and we're all on the right path.
Yes, we
Uh,
are.
and it's just a case of being mindful about this and trying to take on some of the teachings, concepts, and things we talk about to just try and help you navigate what is simple but very complex all at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Gary.
Thank you very
So
much.
I guess on that note, I'll say adieu
Yeah,
and goodbye. And everybody have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are.
lovely. Blessings, Sonia. That was amazing. Thank you very much. And remember, guys, please like, share, and subscribe to Sonia of the Tree of Knowledge. And if you can, look her up on her Patreon. It's really worth it. And please like, share, and subscribe to me, which is Alternative Interactions. And I also have a Telegram channel where I put extra information that we're not allowed to put on YouTube. So with
Okay.
that, bye bye, everybody. And thank you very much, Sonia. You've been a star. Appreciate
You
yourself.
too.
Thank you.
Bye, dear.
Blessings.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.